Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video, and today I will explain to you why Ainz Ooal Gown and Demiurge, despite suspecting that the Theocracy of Slane is somehow related to players, did not act against it or infiltrated the state of the 6 great gods, until recently, because they had received a rather compelling reason to do so. But before we're going to do so, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel and say my thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's dive into the topic at hand. The Theocracy of Slane was and remains the most advanced human civilization in this part of the New World, and probably the entirety of the New World. But despite its apparent strength, and despite the fact that Ainz Ooal Gown himself engaged in open combat against the Sunlight Scripture and nearly wiped them out completely, and despite the survivors of the Overlord's attack making it back, Ainz and the Great Tomb of Nezarec did not really confront the state of the 6 players, because they likely hosted players, or even an entire guild base, within their borders. The reason Ainz Ooal Gown and his guild hadn't engaged with the Theocracy of Slane was that he had just arrived in the New World. So despite they being, or rather their guild having a history of being a player-killer guild, they had no idea where they were, or with whom they were, and with whom they were dealing with in their new surroundings. Because of this, Demiurge advised caution, recommending that Ainz refrain from confronting the Theocracy directly, or even infiltrating the state, while Sebastian, Solution Epsilon, Sheltier Bloodfallen, and other reconnaissance teams assessed the situation and gained valuable intel. They didn't want to invade a realm controlled by other players or even an entire guild base unprepared. And the attack on the Sunlight Scripture may have been rash and could rightfully be seen as an act of aggression, but since the main part of the battle took place off-screen from the Theocracy's perspective, due to Ainz Ooal Gown's anti-spy magic hiding the view from hostile observers, the astrologue of the 1,000 Miles for example, the Theocracy wasn't exactly sure how and under what specific circumstances their scripture was destroyed, and why so few survivors had remained. Moreover, it's important to note that the Theocracy was clearly the aggressor here, having eradicated some innocent villages in order to draw out Gazev Stronov and his warrior troop, so that they could be eliminated, which clearly constitutes a premeditated attack, and therefore Ainz Ooal Gown's action could be seen as purely defensive. He was just in the crossfire of things. The Theocracy also couldn't know Ainz Ooal Gown's exact location in order to question him, as Nezarec was concealed beneath hills, and Ainz acted from there on, or rather interacted with the outside world as Momon the Adventurer. And while the Theocracy suspected, much later in the story, that Ainz and Momon might be hiding under the same cover, or are in cahoots with one another, they were fairly certain that Ainz, Momon, Demiurge, and even Sheltier were not allied, meaning their intelligence was not complete. Now, there were also infiltration attempts inside of the Sorcerer Kingdom from Slane, but Ainz also preferred to de-escalate and not to pressure the Theocracy for those actions. In other words, the reason Ainz and Nezarec have only now shown an interest in the fact that the Theocracy was connected to players had been due to the reason Sheltier was attacked, namely due to encountering one of the 6 scriptures, the Black Scripture to be a bit more precise. And they did so, they put all of this defensive posture up in order to avoid being attacked by a potentially superior enemy, by a potentially superior guild that had years and decades of time to power level other beings from the New World. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, And as usual, let me know your thoughts and your ideas about this video.